Can we agree that Iran, both the public and the private sector, is being held together right now with spit and duct tape?
Spit and duct tape is not a doctrinal term, Senator, but I would agree with something along those lines.
It's a Louisiana term. I mean, 7 out of 10 Iranians are out of work. We bomb their infrastructure. They've got 70% inflation. Their internet's shut off. You know better than I do what we've done on the military side. Their launchers, gone. Their missiles, for the most part, gone. Their drones, gone. Do they have some left? Yeah. Their Navy, gone. Their Air Force, gone. You can get in an airplane, you personally, and fly anywhere you want to across Iran right now and feel safe because they don't have any air defenses. It will be, in my opinion, 20 years and cost $1 trillion before they're even back somewhat to normal. And I don't have the slightest idea where they're going to get the money. If they think China's going to give it to them or Russia, they've got to learn a hard lesson. To that extent, have we achieved our objective in Iran?
Objective, as this president has stated from the beginning, is to ensure they don't get a nuclear weapon, and President Trump remains dedicated to ensuring that happens. And everything you described with the military degradation of their country was in service of ensuring they never get a nuclear weapon.
This is what I never understood the president to say, I want a regime change in Iran, and I want to obtain all of their fissile material. I've never heard him say that. What I heard him say was, I don't want to go back through it, but our goal is to cripple them so they can't blackmail the rest of the world. Now, many of my Democratic friends are now trying to say we have lost. Here's a footnote. You're not going to get Democratic support. They're not. They're not going to support you, Mr. Secretary, because they don't support President Trump. I know that's not a newsflash. But they say we've lost. I don't get it. I don't understand how we've lost. Is the strait closed? Yes. But if we continue that blockade where nothing's going in and nothing's going out, eventually they're going to have to shut down their oil fields, are they not? Half of their oil fields are low pressure. Once they put them down, they're not going to get them back up. Am I missing something here?
No, that's why the president is right when he says we hold all the cards, and we do. And we've got the best deal maker in the world able to make the best deal for the United States of America. And if we have to go back at it as the Department of War, we're ready to do that as well.
Louisiana Senator John Kennedy just delivered the ultimate reality check in a massive geopolitical showdown occurring just before President Trump departs for Beijing. We're witnessing a strategic chess piece that the UK is on the verge of surrendering directly to the Chinese government. This goes far beyond standard partisan bickering. It represents a live takedown of foreign allies, striking disastrous agreements that directly endanger our national defense. Today, Pete Hegseth navigated another highly charged Senate confirmation-style grilling. Everyone in D.C. is laser-focused on the new administration's approach to international crisis zones, and Kennedy didn't pull any punches in revealing the harsh, unfiltered facts. Make no mistake, folks, this wasn't an exchange of empty talking points or gentle softball inquiries. Kennedy transformed this committee meeting into a full-blown interrogation. He firmly pinned Hegseth down, compelling the Department of Defense to abandon bureaucratic jargon and explicitly define America's bottom line regarding China's creeping influence in Mauritius, right before Trump's pivotal Beijing visit. Before we explore the total decimation of Iran's armed forces, a truth the mainstream liberal media desperately wants to hide, I need to begin with how Kennedy trapped the Defense Secretary. Regarding Britain's unforgivable tactical error in the Indian Ocean, pay close attention to how the senator utilizes biting sarcasm to expose the underlying truth.
Can we agree that if you took President Xi Jinping and turned him upside down and shook him, that the African country of Mauritius would fall out of his pocket?
I don't know if we can, but I'd like to indulge you on that.
Well, let me try it another way. Mauritius is good friends with China, is it not?
I understand there's some level of a relationship there.
Yeah. Yeah, like they're BFFs or whatever the young people call it. Prime Minister Starmer wants to give Diego Garcia and the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, which has virtually no connection with the Chagos Islands, who will promptly give a spare key to Diego Garcia to China. Is that accurate?
What I would underscore is that Diego Garcia is a very strategic location, and having the ability to operate there for the United States military is going to be critically
But
important in the future.
Starmer wants to give it away, does he not?
As President Trump has stated, there's been some pretty bad deals made by the Brits as it pertains to Diego Garcia.
I'd like to
yes.
hear you. I mean, the president's been back and forth on this, and I've talked to him a lot. He is not going to agree to that, is he?
No, as the president has stated, it was a bad deal that was cut by the UK and Prime Minister Starmer as it pertains to Diego Garcia, as evidenced by limitations that our troops could face in how we use that island. Yes.
As you can see, Kennedy is an absolute master of sharp metaphors. The image of turning Xi Jinping upside down to shake out Mauritius perfectly illustrates the terrifying extent of China's dominance there. Diego Garcia serves as one of the United States' most vital strategic military installations. It acts as the primary choke point for dominating international shipping routes. Despite this, UK Prime Minister Starmer is actively trying to surrender it to Mauritius, a nation that has already been completely bought out by Beijing. When Secretary Hegseth attempted to fall back on standard Pentagon talking points about Diego Garcia being very important, Kennedy instantly interrupted him and applied the pressure. He wants to give it away, does he not? That is a massive level of heat. Kennedy successfully cornered Hegseth into publicly stating that the incoming Trump White House will absolutely refuse to tolerate an arrangement they consider a complete sellout by the British leadership. But that was merely the opening act. The committee's focus rapidly pivoted toward the Middle East, pushing back against the narrative from certain Democrats who claim the U.S. is losing on the global stage. Kennedy didn't just ask investigative questions. He single-handedly outlined the disastrous, decimated reality of Iran today, a country whose military infrastructure has practically vanished, and dared the Defense Secretary to verify it.
Now let's talk about Iran today. Can we agree that Iran, both the public and the private sector, is being held together right now with spit and duct tape?
Spit and duct tape is not a doctrinal term, Senator, but I would agree with something along those
It's a
lines.
Louisiana term. I mean, 7 out of 10 Iranians are out of work. We bomb their infrastructure. They've got 70% inflation. Their internet's shut off. You know better than I do what we've done on the military side. Their launchers, gone. Their missiles, for the most part, gone. Their drones, gone. Do they have some left? Yeah. Their Navy, gone. Their Air Force, gone. You can get in an airplane, you personally, and fly anywhere you want to across Iran right now and feel safe because they don't have any air defenses. It will be, in my opinion, 20 years and cost $1 trillion before they're even back somewhat to normal. And I don't have the slightest idea where they're going to get the money. If they think China's going to give it to them or Russia, they've got to learn a hard lesson. To that extent, have we achieved our objective in Iran?
Objective, as this president has stated from the beginning, is to ensure they don't get a nuclear weapon, and President Trump remains dedicated to ensuring that happens. And everything you described with the military degradation of their country was in service of ensuring they never get a nuclear weapon.
Talk about a harsh awakening. Their economy is in a freefall, and their armed forces have been utterly erased. Spit and duct tape, barely holding on by a thread, Kennedy utilized his signature phrasing to utterly destroy the opposing party's narrative. The senator looked directly at the politicians who were perpetually terrified of provoking Tehran and laid out the facts. Inflation is sitting at 70%. Their Air Force is non-existent. Their Navy is in ruins. And you could literally fly a commercial jet over Iranian airspace right now, without the slightest worry of anti-air retaliation. When forced to confront these undeniable facts, Hegseth was left with no alternative but to completely agree that the Iranian war machine has been totally neutralized. Still, Kennedy made sure to highlight the grim reality of our internal political warfare. Hegseth is walking into a deeply divided Senate, where America's crippling economic sanctions, specifically the absolute blockade of the Strait of Hormuz that is forcing Iran to cap its low-pressure oil reserves forever, are somehow still being branded by the left as a failure. In response, Kennedy offered the Defense Secretary some brutally honest advice, while simultaneously reshaping the entire foundation of America's modern foreign policy strategy.
Now, many of my Democratic friends are trying to say we have lost. Here's a footnote. You're not going to get Democratic support. They're not. They're not going to support you, Mr. Secretary, because they don't support President Trump. I know that's not a newsflash. But they say we've lost. I don't get it. I don't understand how we've lost. Is the strait closed? Yes. But if we continue that blockade, where nothing's going in and nothing's going out, eventually they're going to have to shut down their oil fields, are they not? Half of their oil fields are low pressure. Once they put them down, they're not going to get them back up. Am I missing something here?
No, that's why the president is right when he says we hold all the cards, and we do. And we've got the best deal maker in the world able to make the best deal for the United States of America. And if we have to go back at it as the Department of War, we're ready to do that as well.
Well, keep two things in mind. You're not going to win over my Democratic friends. It's not worth getting your blood pressure up. Focus on other things. And number two, just keep this in mind. America first does not have to mean America alone. America first does not have to mean America alone. We need all the friends we can get. They need to carry their own weight. They need to pay their bills. But the more the better.
Calling it the Department of War is an incredibly bold and militant phrase deployed by Hegseth to broadcast the Pentagon's unapologetic combat readiness. However, it was Kennedy's closing statement that truly stole the show during this session. Kennedy emphasized how the current naval blockade is suffocating Iran's low-pressure petroleum reserves, a permanent, fatal economic blow. Then came his iconic final thought: America first does not have to mean America alone, even when executing a global strategy that prioritizes our own domestic interests above all else. The United States still values partnerships, but here's the massive catch. Those partners are required to foot their own bills and pull their own weight. The days of the U.S. serving as a complimentary bodyguard for nations like the UK, who casually take strategic assets and hand them over to China, have officially come to an end. We will keep a very close eye on these intense Senate clashes and bring you all the uncensored details right here on our channel. If you appreciate the work we do and want to support us, as always, smash that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. If you watched all the way to the end, leave a blue heart emoji in the comment section below. Keep fighting the good fight, everyone. Never let them silence the truth.
The official report concluding the final moments of billionaire Jeffrey Epstein has just officially crumbled, exposing a massive manipulation by the Department of Justice under President Donald Trump. Right in the heart of Capitol Hill today, the House Judiciary Committee delivered a fatal blow by forcing a slew of top-secret internal FBI documents into the light, exposing one of the biggest cover-ups in American judicial history. Welcome back to the Perspective of Truth. The atmosphere in the hearing room right now is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Once powerful former officials are now avoiding the piercing gazes of lawmakers. Amidst the sharp bang of the gavel, demanding transparency, today we will set aside all baseless rumors to dive straight into the black and white evidence. These documents expose a chilling truth. The nation's highest law enforcement agency turned into a professional cleanup crew protecting a criminal network of the ultra-rich. On the night Epstein departed forever, what did the DOJ actually do behind those iron doors? How did they conjure up a way to alter the contents of the investigative file? Let's peel back every layer of camouflage. In this case, let's begin by looking straight at the floor plan of the Metropolitan Correctional Center, a place dubbed the impenetrable fortress of the federal prison system. Opposition lawmakers are focusing their intense attention on the two most crucial security devices, the two cameras pointing directly at the corridor of Epstein's holding area. Ironically enough, in a context where America was holding a figure of vital importance to the careers of numerous billionaires and politicians, Both of these cameras simultaneously went dead on the exact night of the incident. The only remaining source of video data came from a distant, blurry angle located all the way out in the lobby. The suffocating tension in the hearing room escalated when the past statement of former Attorney General Bill Barr was played back. While public opinion was still boiling, this Trump-era Attorney General quickly took to the airwaves, boldly asserting that he had personally reviewed the tapes. Barr concluded that no one entered the area and everything was merely a perfect storm of screw-ups. Let's pause here to analyze. Does a top judicial official use the phrase screw-ups to close a case of national magnitude in just a few days? Barr's action was not an act of transparency. It was a psychological ploy, rushing to deliver a verdict before subordinate investigators even had a chance to assess the scene is actually a way to frame the parameters of the investigation. When the most expensive security equipment fails at the most critical moment, common logic doesn't call it a technical glitch. It is the opening signal for a perfectly designed plan. However, the defense's confidence completely collapsed when the committee unveiled today's core evidence. It wasn't about the broken cameras, but rather what the only functioning camera actually recorded. Lawmakers have just released the original video logbook written by the on-scene FBI agent himself. At the 10:39 p.m. timestamp, the note reads incredibly clearly, observed a figure in orange clothing moving up the stairs, heading straight for Epstein's cell area, possibly an inmate being escorted. At this point, anyone who understands prison regulations realizes a fatal flaw. Regulations strictly require all inmates to wear orange uniforms, whereas the security and guard staff absolutely never wear this color. Faced with such a sharp clue, what did the DOJ do? Instead of mobilizing forces to track down the identity of that mysterious orange figure, they chose to doctor the truth. In the public report later approved by the DOJ, the detail about the orange figure evaporated completely, leaving no trace. Instead, it was spun into a speculative sentence to lull the public because the area was on lockdown. It's possible it was just someone carrying prison bed linens passing by. The entire hearing room seemed to freeze. The deceit in these words crossed the line of mere negligence. A lawmaker harshly questioned, since when does the DOJ give itself the right to turn a factual FBI observation into a harmless hypothesis? Who is that orange-clad figure that you had to erase from the records at all costs? There was no vocal response. Their silence is the most damning confession of having shielded an external operative who directly intervened in that cell that night. If editing written records makes you indignant, their handling of the crime scene will leave you outraged. Photographs of Epstein's holding area show an unusual mess. By all rights, this space should have been immediately locked down with the highest security perimeter to collect evidence. Instead, what happened next resembled a comedy. Newly declassified documents confirm that federal authorities completely bypassed DNA testing. Not a single fingerprint sweep was conducted on the surfaces or items around the area. We are talking about the most fundamental principles of evidence collection that even a rookie cop knows by heart. The absurdity reaches its peak when mentioning the most important piece of evidence around Epstein's neck. Reports noted several braided strips of fabric from uniforms scattered around. When investigators were asked which piece of fabric was the direct cause, all hit a dead end. They didn't know. Even a guard, when giving a statement, casually said he couldn't remember whether he touched that evidence or not during first aid. This ambiguity was further aided by the forensics department. The person responsible for reviewing the security tape to assess the situation offered an unbelievably baffling excuse. The video was too blurry to draw any conclusions. A prison system with a massive budget operates cameras that can't clearly see a person's face. The combination of failing to collect DNA, an unprotected crime scene, and poor quality video created a perfect smokescreen. This is an organized crime scene cleanup process, ensuring that no one could ever reopen the case. While government reports were trying to slam the door on the truth, the voice of independent science rang out strongly. Dr. Michael Baden, a monument in the American forensic community and former chief medical examiner of New York, stepped in at the request of Epstein's family. Dr. Baden's conclusion completely contradicted the DOJ's narrative. He discovered unusual fractures in the neck area, specifically the hyoid bone. According to medical expertise, this type of injury is extremely rare if a person acts alone. That physical sign only matches being subjected to a constricting force from the outside, caused by someone else. The fact that government officials buried the professional assessment of a top expert like Dr. Baden shows they were desperate to protect their initial conclusion. It's not just medical science, but psychological logic that also exposes this lie. Just 9 days before the incident, Epstein recruited a former lawyer who had served Donald Trump to join his legal defense team. This lawyer's testimony affirmed his client was in an extremely focused mental state, full of energy to confront the upcoming trials. Why would a man who had just poured a mountain of money into building an elite legal team, ready to drag a series of powerful names into the light in exchange for a plea deal, suddenly give up? The answer is simple. He didn't give up. He was forced into silence before he had the chance to open his mouth and expose the list of heavyweights in high society. For a false narrative to stand firm, one must permanently seal the mouths of the witnesses. The DOJ executed a ruthless but very familiar move in political games. Right after the incident, they loudly indicted the 2 guards on duty that night on charges of falsifying patrol records. The public was deceived at the time, believing the government was truly punishing those who neglected their duties. However, looking deeper, this was merely a legal lever. Hanging the threat of prison time over their heads was the best way to force lower-level employees to strictly adhere to the testimony arranged by their superiors. Once public attention had settled and the official conclusion was announced, the DOJ did something earth-shattering. They quietly dropped all charges against these 2 guards. This slap on the wrist was not an act of leniency. According to a report by veteran investigative journalist Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald, the FBI had previously recorded the testimony of another inmate. This inmate claimed to have overheard the guards whispering to each other about how to hide sensitive details from that fateful night. The DOJ dropping the charges was the reward for silence, an unspoken contract to ensure the unseen. Witnesses would never, ever step up to the witness stand. The hearing hasn't closed yet, but with what has just been exposed, the public has made its own verdict. The event at the MCC prison wasn't simply the termination of an individual riddled with crimes. It is a panoramic picture of the collapse of transparency under the Trump administration. The DOJ stripped itself of its role as a law enforcement agency to transform into a risk management team for the elite. From erasing the FBI report, ignoring DNA testing steps, and blaming blurry video, to using power to manipulate witnesses. Everything formed a sophisticated and ruthless process to blockade the truth. Epstein's departure allowed a slew of VIP guests in that dark network to breathe a sigh of relief. And the DOJ, instead of dismantling that network, stepped up to lock the padlock on this Pandora's box. The declassified documents today are undeniable proof. Sometimes the justice system isn't blind at all. It just proactively closes its eyes when the perpetrator has enough power to manipulate it. Thank you for joining the Perspective of Truth today. Who do you think was the real director of this perfect script? Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to hit subscribe so we can continue to uncover the next truths. Goodbye, and see you next time.